All, I am Khanam. Welcome back to new CSS tutorial. In this complete course, we are going to master CSS Grid. Most of the people are still confused how to use Grid. So in this section, I will be covering all the concept, all the properties which are required to use CSS Grid. And also at the end, we will be making a simple layout. We will designing one simple structure so that the concept of grid, what we learned in this tutorial, that will be clear. If you already started building website and if you are still not using grid, then this is the right time to start using the grid. Because moving forward, when you are working for any company or when you are doing your own freelancing project, then CSS Grid is very useful and it will help to reduce lot of code. So before understanding what CSS Grid is, I suggest you to understand what is CSS Flexbox, and I have already uploaded video on that. If you have not watched, then I suggest you to watch that video before continuing with this video. Now before understanding what is CSS Grid and what is Flexbox, understanding why we should use them is important. So here I have opened Flipkart website, and inside this we are having lot of content. Now here this may be the nav bar, this may be the complete header, this complete thing, and inside that we are having lot and lot of content. So basically whenever we are creating any website, there are two types of layers. First is page layout and second is component layout. Page layout is this one, complete page structure. We have header, we have main content, we have sidebar, we have article, we have aside elements, and finally we have footer. So that is one complete page layout. Talking about component layout, this is my complete, just imagine this is the container in which all the elements are arranged using display flex, and this we can treat as one component, and inside this we are having one simple image and below that we are having text. So every component will be arranged in different way. Let me scroll here. Now if you see here, this is one component, this complete one component. Inside this we have text, we have some description, we have one card, and finally we have one image. So page layout is designing one complete page, and component layout is inside that page we will have multiple components, and inside each component we have some content, and that content will be structured in such a way so that component will look good in that page layout. So to give different and beautiful layers to our website, we will be using CSS Grid and CSS Flexbox. So basically, CSS Grid is used to build two-dimensional layers. What I mean by two-dimensional, we have this one, we have rows, and also we have columns. But in Flexbox, it was one-dimensional, so we can just build the layer in only one dimension, that is rows or columns. But in this CSS Grid, same time we can build both of them. We can build columns as well as we can build the rows. So that is the reason CSS Grids are used to build two-dimensional layers in our website. And the main idea behind using CSS Grid is the same thing. We can use both rows and columns, and also inside that we can have multiple elements. Practically we are going to understand all this concept, but before writing the code, first we have to understand the terminologies or the concept used in this CSS Grid. As I mentioned, why should we use CSS Grid? To layout our website, but why it was introduced? Before CSS Grid was introduced, we were having multiple things Suppose if I just want to structure the content in the middle, or if I just want to move the content at the end, or if I am having multiple components, I want to give same with all components. Previously, we used to use tables, floats, we have to apply all the tricks and we have to bring that content in the middle or at the corners. That was very frustrating as well as it was time consuming. We have to write lots and lots of code. But now using CSS Grid, we just have to write 3 to 4 lines of code and we can build complex layer in our website. So now we do not have to use tables, we do not have to use floats at all. Positioning is still used, but it is used for other purpose. An inline block is also important, but for aligning the items in the middle, we will not be using inline block. Inline block is used for other purpose. So now you do not have to use floats at all. But in older website, if you're working in any older project and they are having their own website which is created long ago, then floats are still important for you. Other than that, floats are not used this time. Now let's understand the terminologies and the concept which we come across when we are using grid. Now let's understand what is grid container, what are grid items and everything. Now this white background, what you see, just imagine this is my div container with the class name container, and for this container, as soon as I give display to be grid, then this white container is going to become grid container, and inside that whatever div elements I have given, those will become grid items. So the parent one is called as grid container as soon as we give display property to be grid, and whatever elements we have inside that, that is direct child, those are called as grid items. And if you see the structure, here I am having 1, 2, 3. Here also below I am having 3 boxes, and at the end I am having one small box. So if you see here, this is my column, this is my another column, and this is my third column. So basically there are 3 columns. And also if you see, if you are learning grid for the very first time, by seeing this you will tell there are 3 rows, 1, 2 and 3. But what if I say when I created this container, I have just given width for 2 rows. This is the first row and this is the second row. This third row, what happened? This last cell has come down, which means I have not given any width to this one. I have just assigned I am having 3 columns and I am having 3 rows. But here I am having 7 boxes. So this concept practically I will be explaining you more. Basically whatever width I give or how many rows I give, that are called as explicit rows, and by default which is coming down because of not having enough space or because of my variations on the width, that is called as implicit rows. That I will be explaining you. But now what you have to focus, we have grid container, and inside that whatever elements we are having direct child, those are called as grid items, and these items can be arranged both in horizontal or vertical, that is in rows as well as in columns. Now here there will be multiple examples where inside one div container we will be having this child. Inside this div container I am having this paragraph. So most of us will think then this paragraph will also be called as grid item. But here in grid it will not happen. Whatever direct child we are having to this container, only those are called as grid items. This paragraph is nowhere called as grid item. It is just a paragraph inside one grid item. So whatever content we have inside this child elements, you should not think all are called as grid items. Only the direct child of this parent are called as grid items. And rest will be treated as the same thing. It is a paragraph or it is a heading or it is a button. We will not be calling them as grid items. Okay, this you should be very clear because most of them will get confused, and for every element they will be calling it as a grid item. So it is not like that. Only the direct child of the container are called as grid items. Now let me just take this pink one where I am having all these boxes in rows and columns, and I will be explaining you all the terminologies and all the keys which we will be using in our code. So I have just taken my layer and I have displayed here. Behind this white color which you can see, that is my grid container. Inside that I am having 7 boxes. Now you can see this will be arranged in this way, and this is my 3 column and these are my 2 rows, and this third one, it is created implicitly. I have not given any width to that, but it has taken implicitly. That I will explain you. But as of now, you can see I am having 3 columns and I am having 3 rows. Just consider I am having 3 rows. Now here, this lines, what you can see, it is called as grid lines. So grid lines are very important. You have to understand what are grid lines. Okay, these lines, what you can see, these are called as grid lines. But if you see here, I am having only 2 grid lines. And here I am having 2 row grid lines. But whenever we start writing the code, we will be counting the grid lines from this corner. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Let me show you. You can see our grid line count will be starting from here. 1, this one, first corner, then second, third and finally fourth. Then row also we will be counting in this way. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So how many columns we have? Plus 1 will be the grid line. Same way for rows. How many rows we have? Plus 1 will be for grid line. And this row, the third row is not created by me, but when we count grid line, we have to count that row as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I am having 3 columns but 4 grid lines. I am having 3 rows but 4 grid lines. Grid lines are numbered in this way, or they can be numbered in this way, in reverse direction. First it was started here 1. Now below it will be starting like this, -1, -2, -3 and -4. So here top left corner will be 1. Here bottom right corner will be -1. So it is just going to reverse the number in negative values. So here also 1, 2, 3, 4. Here it is going to reverse in negative, -1, -2, -3 and -4. Understanding this numbering is very important because later on when we do practical, then it will be very easy for you to understand this concept, how we are structuring the layer, how we are bringing this content in different way. So understanding that will become very easy if you understand this numbering system. Then the next is grid cell. Now inside this I have just given one overlay, blue color, and here I have covered complete blue color. This is nothing but this is called as grid cell. Inside that I am having grid items, and this entire thing is called as grid cell. So do not get confused. This entire block is called as container, grid container. Inside that whatever childrens we are having, those are called as grid items, and these lines are called as grid lines, and this entire thing which is covered in blue, it is called as grid cells. And all these things, whatever we are having, it is called as grid cells. Then next we have grid track. This complete one row, it is called as grid track in row, and this one, it is called as column track. So basically we don't call them as row track or column track. we just call them as grid track. So this one complete thing is called as track, and also for this also we will be calling it as track. Then next grid area. Now if you see, my line will be starting from here 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this is the grid area which is covering second grid line to fourth grid line and first row grid line and third row grid line. So whatever area we define, this is called as grid area. Now if I tell 1 to 2, this will be 1 to 2 column and 1 to 4 will be the row. So this entire thing will be called as grid area. From container, if we just want to define some content from my entire container, if I just want to take this space only for main content, then inside that container, I am just taking this grid area and I am assigning this grid area to my main content. So that is the reason we call it as grid area. For this I can just give header, for this I can give footer. Only this area I am taking, I am giving the name as footer. And this area I am taking, I am giving the name as sidebar. So whatever names we want, we can give inside this container. I hope you are clear with all the terminologies. Understanding this terminology is very important. If you are not getting, just watch this video 2 to 3 times or write down your notes, refer to your notes, because as soon as we start practical, all these terminologies will be very useful. Once you understand these terminologies, building layers will be very easy and very simple. That's all for introduction. Now we will be seeing practical example. We will be building simple layer and completely understand about CSS Grid. Let us start with practical example. I have explained you the theory which is important for CSS Grid. Now finally we are going to see all the properties which are required in CSS Grid. We will see parent properties as well as child properties. Here I have written basic HTML structure. I have written one H1 heading. Inside that I have created div, and for this parent div I have given the class name as container. And for all these 7 boxes I have given 2 classes. Box is common for all this, and box 1, box 2, box 3 for individual div containers. And inside style.css, I have just written this 4 lines of code in which I have given background color for the container, border color and background color for boxes. Now what I just want to increase their width and height. As of now, all these div elements are block level elements, so they are covering complete 100%. And coming to height, they are taking the height of the content present inside that container. Now here I am going to give width of 100 pixel. Save this. Now this width will be 100 pixel, but height will be content height. Now if I want to give the height, I can just write here 100 pixel. Save this. Now all these boxes will be getting 100 pixel of width and 100 pixel of height. Now using this width and height properties, I cannot arrange this element at the corners, at the end, at the middle. It is not possible. So what we are going to do? We are going to use CSS Grid. Let me comment this out. This will be my result. Now here, to use CSS Grid, first what we have to do? We have to use display property and we have to give the value as grid to our parent container. I will save this. Nothing will happen. No changes in the result. I will inspect. Now here you can see for container, I am having this grid circle. As soon as I click on this, you can see I will be having the numbers here, grid line numbers. And here in reverse order, the numbers will be displayed. Now what I will do, I just want to define columns and rows. I want to tell how many columns I need in my layout and how many rows I need in my layout. So for columns, we have one property, grid template columns. And here we have to specify the width of element. Now I am going to give 100 pixel. As soon as I save this, see what happens. For all these elements, I am having 100 pixel of width. But all are arranged one by one because here I have given only one value, which means I am telling I need only one column in my layout. Now if I give here second value 50 pixel, as soon as I save this, you can see now I will be having two columns, one with the width of 100 pixel and one with the width of 50 pixel. Now rows by itself it is going to take, I am having columns. So accordingly rows it is going to adjust. So here I am having 4 rows. Now suppose I want to give the row height as well, then I can use another property. I can use grid template rows, and inside this we have to do the same thing. We have to specify the height of elements. Now here first row I am just going to give 100 pixel. Only for first row I want to give height, so I am just specifying only one value. I will save this. Now you can see only for first row the height is increased, that is 100 pixel. Now second I will give 200 pixel. Save this. For second row I will be having 200 pixel. If I want to give three values, then I can just write here 50 pixel. Save this. For third row also height is given. But this fourth row you can see I am not having any height for that, but based on the column that is displayed down. Now this is what I explained you in theory. These values which I have defined, that is explicit. Explicitly I am telling this much width I want and this much height I want. But for this last element I am not giving any height. So that has explicitly come down and it has created another row for me, another extra row for me. Here I have given only 3 rows, but this is the extra one. So that has come down and it has created a new row for me. So using this display grid, we can use all the properties available inside display grid. So using this template column, we can specify the width, and using this template rows, we can specify the height. But most of the time when we are creating layer, we will not be using grid template rows. Accordingly, based on the column, it will be adjusted. Rows will be coming down, and according to content, rows height will be given. Now for this last one, if I just write here Lauren 20, save this. Now you can see based on the content, the height will be increased. So usually template rows we will not be using much, because using template columns only we will be getting the rows, and based on that content height will be specified. Let me remove this. Save. Now this is my result. I will open my developer tool. Now when I just click on this grid, you can see I am having that grid line numbers. I am having 2 columns, so grid lines will be 3, and I am having 4 rows, so grid lines will be 5 in the rows. Now if you want to change this color, come to this layer tab, scroll down, and here you will be having the color. I will click on this. Now whichever color you want, you can easily change from here, and also you can see preview here. Let me just give here yellow so that we can see it clearly. Now we are having different ways of giving the width inside this container. Now here, instead of giving like this, for second one, I can just write here auto. I will save this. Now what happens, whatever empty space I was having in the parent container, all that space will be taken by this second column. So this is how auto works. Now if I just decrease, you can see accordingly it will be adjusted and the content will be displayed. Before that, let me just comment this out, and down I will be writing it auto. And third is using fractional values. Instead of this, let me write here 50 pixel, and for this 100 pixel I will be writing 1 FR. Now just see the change. I will save this. Now this complete first column will be taking whatever empty space I was having, that will be taken by this column. Now for this second column also, if I just write here 1FR, I will save this. Now that space will be equally divided between both the columns and they will be stretched accordingly. Now suppose I just want another column, I can just write here 1FR again, save this. Now three columns will be having the same width. Let me inspect. Now here inside this styles tab, this is my box model, and when I hover on this div container, the width is 224. For this also 224 and for this also 224. So accordingly width will be divided. But imagine if I am having 12 columns in a row and for all I want to give equal width. So I cannot be writing 1FR 12 times. So instead of writing this, we have a very special function, that is repeat function. I will remove all these three. Here, before that, let me save. This is my result. Here I am going to write repeat. How many times I want to repeat? 3 times I want to repeat. That is 3 columns I want to display. I will give 3. What fraction? I just have to give 1FR. I will save this. Now again I will be getting the same result. Now instead of this, I just want to display 4 columns. Comment. And here I am just going to write 4. Save this. Now 4 columns will be displayed of equal width. Their height, whatever I have given here, that will be displayed. If I do not give this one, then content height they will be taking and containers will be displayed. Let me give height as well. And also I will comment this out. I will uncomment this one. I want this result. I will copy this line and here I will be pasting. Now in place of 1FR, now for third value, if I just write here 2FR, see the result. Now for this, I will be having one fractional space. For this also one fractional, but for this, I will be having 2 fractional space. Let me open my container. Now if I just hover on this, you can see now my div container is having 672 pixel width. And this first box is having 168. Second box is having 168, that is second column. And finally, third column is having 336. 336. Save this. So this is the calculation which will be applied and this width will be given to its column. Now here, if I just give 2 here, now our total fraction is 5. Let me save. Now you can see for these 2 containers, second and third, I will be having the same space. And for this first one, I will be having the one fractional space. Now if I just show you the width, I will come. Now for first one, I am having 134.4. For rest, it will be the double. I will be getting 268.8. And for third column also, I will be having the same width. So in this way, you can do the calculation and you can get the width. So fractional unit is very important. Now here, if I just reduce the size, you can see based on the screen size, the content will be adjusted and accordingly the width will be displayed. So this is how we are going to use this column property as well as row property. And for row also, whatever values I gave here, same values we can apply for row as well. Now here if I just write auto, save this, I will be getting the result. Whatever content height I am having, that I am going to get. And for this, if I just write 1FR, here I will write 1FR, save this, you can see the difference. For this I am having height. As soon as I gave 1FR, this height is reduced because I am not having enough space in my parent container. Now for this parent, if I just give the height as 100 view height, save this. Now you can see whatever remaining space I was having to the parent, that will be adjusted and given to this second row. Now here if I just write 50 pixel, save this. And here let me write 100 pixel, save. Now this is the extra space. You can see below whatever space I am having, that will be given, that will be stretched. So that entire space will be given as a width to second row. If I just write here 2FR. And also if I write 1FR, then also I will be getting the same result because manually I have given the values here. Here also I can use 1FR, save this. Now space will be divided equally for both the rows. And instead of this, I can write repeat function, repeat 2, and here I can just write 1FR. Save this, then also I am going to get the same result. And here I have to remove this, save, I will be getting the result. This is all about grid template rows and grid template columns and how to use fractional unit, how to calculate fractional units and give width to the columns. Next, we are going to see some more properties and we will understand more about grids. Now, let us understand about important property, that is gap property. In our CSS Flex also, we have understood what is gap property. In this grid also, we can use gap property and it is very important and it is most widely used whenever we want any spaces between any containers. So basically, instead of using margin, margin is nothing but giving space outside the element. So instead of using margin, we will be using gap property. Now first let me show you using margin. Now these are my boxes and for this box I just want some space so that they will not stick to each other. I will give margin of 30 pixel. Save this. Now you can see all the containers will be having 30 pixel of margin from top, right, bottom and left. Now if I just inspect this one, now here for this box one, when I hover, you can see margin is applied all the four sides, top, right, bottom and left. And for second box also, I am having 30 pixel of margin. So all the boxes will be having 30 pixel of margin, all four sides. But I do not want this one. So this margin I have used inside the box, that is this containers. For all these containers, I have just given the margin. But while we are using gap property, we will be using inside parent container. Now here I will give gap. By default, value will be 0. If I save, nothing changes. But if I give here 10 pixel, save this. Now you can see only here I am having the space. Columns I am having space as well as I am having in the row. So this layout is very simple and also visually it is very pleasing. I can increase the gap as well. I will give 20 pixel. Save this. Now you can see only in between I will be having the spaces. All four sides I will not be having the space. So that is the reason gap property is very important. If I show you in larger screen, you can see this is my result. I am having box 1, box 2, box 3 and in between I am having spaces. One thing is very useful in grid, that is we can use different property for giving different space for column as well as giving different space for row. But the same thing cannot be given for flex properties. Instead of giving like this, I can just write here. Let me come here. I can write column gap of 40 pixel. Save this. Only vertically I will be having the space. But for row gap, I want less space, around 10 pixel. Save this. Now row I will be having 10 pixel of space. So these two properties are also very important along with gap, because if you want to give different spaces between the containers, then individual property like column gap or row gap you can use and you can easily implement this one. So as of now for row gap, let me just write here 30 pixel. And in my larger screen, let me show you the result. This will be my result. For column, I will be having different space and for row, I will be having different space. Now you can see for grid template rows, I have given the height, that is one fraction. But if I don't give this one, then I am going to have this result, because here we have given one fraction for column and two fractions for two more columns. And if I don't give this one, then all the way I have given height of 100 view height. So all the way it is going to stretch, because by default the value will be stretched. So all the way the containers will be stretched and I will be getting this result. Now suppose if I don't give this height, then this will be my result. So let me just give the height, and also let me just reduce this one 20 pixel, save this, and here also 20 pixel. Now for both I am using 20 pixel. So instead of using these two properties, I can just use this gap property. Now this will be my final result. Now if you notice here below this box, I have just commented this width and height. As soon as I uncomment and save, just see what happens. Whatever values I have given here, that will be overridden by this width and height property. So you should be very careful whenever you are giving this. Just see the result. What happened? Every container, my containers are having 100 pixel of width and 100 pixel of height. But according to my column fractional unit, my containers will be taking the space. So this is the first column. It is taking one fraction of space. This is the second column. It is taking two fraction of space. Now if I just inspect and show you, and I will hover on this box 2, you can see this is my box 2, this is my box 3, but here you can see these are taking extra spaces. Why? Because I have just given two fraction of space. If I just write here 3, save this, now this is going to take 3 fraction of space. So this kind of things you should not do, or else our entire layout will be messed out and we will not be having proper result. So once you give grid template columns, then do not use any width or height properties inside any of the container. If you want to give height for individual elements, then you can go with height property. But usually I don't recommend giving width and height to all the containers. Directly if you want to give for entire row and you will be getting same result. Now let us understand few more properties inside grid, that is spanning elements. Now most of the time what we want to display header, we will be displaying footer, we want side nav. But in this kind of layer, what we have built just now, using this layer, nowhere it is visible we have header or we have different elements. We are just having 7 boxes, and for that I have just given some width. Now what I want, this first cell, I want it to span complete container. So this is my first cell. It should be taking this space as well as it should be taking this place. So that whenever I build this kind of layer, only that element I can keep as a header. Or only this 7th element I just want to span till here, and this element I can keep as a footer. So in such kind of scenarios, spanning element is very important. We are just changing the position and we are giving the position which is required to build the layer. So first let me show you an example. Now this 7, basically what I want to do, I just want to span it till here so that I can mark it as footer. So here I will write box 7, and for that we have grid column start. Previously, as I mentioned, for everything we are having grid line numbers. I will just on this one, and also I'm just going to change the color again. You can see here I am having 1, 2, 3 and 4. And for row also I am having 1, 2, 3 and 4. So how many columns I am having? Plus 1 will be the grid line, and same for row as well. And here also in our presentation I have showed you what are grid lines, and these are the numbers which will be present inside grid lines 1, 2, 3 and 4 for row also, and in reverse order we will be having -1, -2, -3, -4, and here also we will have the numbers. Now what I will be doing, Grid start, I just want to start from column 1. I just want to span this 7th row till here. And here if you notice this yellow lines, inside this I am not having any cell, but still it is treated as a cell because it has given one extra row. So totally I am having 3 cells inside this row. Now this 7th cell I just want to cover till this last cell. So starting value is column is 1, and here I will write grid column end, and ending value is, now might be you will be thinking ending value is 3. I just want to cover 2 cells. So 1, 2 and 3 cells. So if I just give here end, grid column end, I will change the spelling. Now as soon as I save this, you can see this will be my result. Now why it is not extended till end? Because this is my first grid line, this is my second grid line, and this is my third grid line. So only till third grid line it is extended. So if I just want to cover all the area, I just have to write here 4, save this. Now this will be my result. If I show you in larger screen, this is my entire footer which is spanning all these elements. Okay, this is one way of writing this. If you want to give separate values, you can write grid column start or grid column end. Now if you do not want this one, if you do not want to write like this, we can just write the shorthand property grid column, and here it will be taking start value, start slash end value. Let me comment this out. I will come down. Now starting value is 1 and last value is 4. Now if I save this, I will be getting same result. This is one way of doing this. Now instead of that, I can also specify like this grid column. I just want to start from column 1 and I just want to extend till here. Now as I showed you, we are having two numbers. For columns, here you can see I am having -1 at the end. For row also, I will be having -1 at the end. So I will just write 1 minus 1. I will save this. Now again I am going to get the same result. Now if you do not want to write like this, and if you do not want to remember, if I just want to span across all these 3 cells, I do not want to write number greater than that. So what we can do, we can just write like this grid column start value 1, and I will be writing span space 3. I just want to cover all these 3 cells, so I am just writing 3. Save this. Now I will be getting same result. So any which way you can write and you can get the result. Now suppose for box 1 also, I just want to apply the same thing. I will come on top dot box 1, and inside this I will write grid column, same property. Let me just write the proper spellings. Grid column, first I want to start and ending is -1. Save this. Now this will be my header and this will be my footer. Now if you see here I am having empty cell. Why? Because now this 7th element is spanning across all the elements. So as soon as first element is spanning across, this second and third has come here. Fourth is occupying this space now. Fifth is here. Sixth is here. And for 7th, we do not have any space. So this is the empty cell left in my layout. So now what I want, this second cell, I just want to span across the rows. So count the grid lines. 1, 2. From 2 I want to start. This is 3 and this is 4. And at 4 I just want to end this one. Let me come down. Grid. Sorry, I just have to write the box number. Box 2. Here I am going to write grid row. Same for row also. We have grid row start and grid row end. But here I am going to use shorthand property, grid row. My row number should be starting from 2 and I just want to span across 4. I will just write here 4. Save this. Now I will be having this result. Let me just off these lines, inspect, layout, and I'm just going to off this one. Now you can see my row is also taking 2 cells of space. Now for rows also, instead of giving grid line numbers, here also I can just write span. I just want to span across 2 cells. So I will write span 2. So here what you have to understand, for column if I just want to span, start value is 1 and end value, currently I am having 3 cells. Till end if I just want to span, I have to give number greater than that column number. I am having 3 columns, so I will be giving here 4. And here, as I mentioned, reverse also I will be having the values. So end value I am just going to give here. So this will be positive 1 and this corner will be negative 1. So here, along with 1, my column will also be having minus 4 as the number. Minus 4, minus 3, minus 2 and minus 1. And for row also, it will be the same. We have 1, 2, 3 and 4. And for row, it will be minus 1, minus 2, minus 3 and minus 4. So here this corner for row, it will be having two values, 1 and minus 4. Now if you see the layer structure, this is well defined layer structure, and previously without grid, building this layout was very difficult and it was time consuming to achieve this kind of layout. But using grid, only within 2 to 3 lines of code, we can achieve such a complex layout. Now I'll be showing you one more example. Let me just comment this out. I will comment this and also this one. Now what I want, now this first cell, it should be taking all these 3 cell spaces. So what we can do, just pause the video for 1 minute, think what values we have to give and then continue with the video. I will write box 1. Now I want to span across row. I will write grid row. I will be starting from starting, that is first grid line, and I have to end till fourth grid line. Save this. Now you can see first element will be spanning from first to fourth grid line. And then next, this box 2, I just want to span in column. So this is my second grid line, third and fourth. So here I will write box 2, grid column. I will be starting from 2. I just want to end it till 4. Save this. Now this will be my result. Instead of 4, I can just write here span 2. Then also I will be having the same result. Now this grid 4, I just want to bring it here and I want it to span 2 cells. Before that, I will just write here box 7. Previously whatever we have written, I will be writing that grid column. Grid column, it will be starting from n and I just want to span to 3 cells. So I will write 3. Save this. This is also one kind of layer. This can be my nav bar, this can be my header and this can be my footer. This is second layer. Let me show you another layer. I will come down. Same thing. Let me copy this. And here I will be pasting. I will just make one more element. Box 8. And here I will give the class as 8. Save this. I am having one more element here. Now here I will just write here box 8. And for this I will write grid column. Grid column, I just want to start from 2 and I just want to end it till end. 2 span 2. Save this. Now this is my 8 column. This can also be another layer. Now what I want, this third element, I just want it to span to 2 rows. So I can write here box 3, grid rows, starting value is 2 because from 2 I want to start 2, 3, 4 and 4 I have to end. Save this. Now this will be my result. Now whatever layers you want, you can easily build using grids. So now what you can do, now this one you can just span till here and this one you can just span till here. Now if you see here, in this layer, I am having 2 empty cells. Now this empty cells also, I just want to occupy the space. So what I will do, for this sixth box, I will be giving the same layer. For 4 also if you give, let me show you. 4, I will copy same thing and I am just going to paste it here. Save this, I will get the same result. If I give 6 here, instead of 4, if I give 6, then also you can see 6 is displayed. Again, I am going to get the same result. Why? Because I have given the same values here. Now for 5 also if I give, I am going to get the same result. Let me just keep it as 4. Now my 5 is here, 6 is here and 7 is here. Now what I can do, easily I can just span this 8th cell till here. So instead of 2, I'll just write here 1. And here I will write span 3. Save this. Now this is my another layer. So building these layers are very easy. You just have to master grid lines. Once you understand grid lines and how to keep the values, then you will easily understand how to place elements in different cells. Now in this, we are going to understand how to align items as well as how to align tracks inside container. So this is my entire container in which I am having grid items. Previously, I have shown you all the terminologies used inside CSS Grid. We have grid area, we have track lines, we have grid lines, we have so many things. Now, here we are having multiple properties. We have align content, justify content, align items, justify items, as well as align self. So for all these properties, so many times we get confused how to give values and what will be the output of that properties. Now if you see here, this is my container. When we want to align the items, first requirement is the parent container should be larger in width as well as larger in height so that we can apply align and justify properties. So I have just increased the container size, white color what you can see. It is my grid container. Now inside this, as soon as I give align content AC, my entire this one, all my rows and columns, that is my complete track will be moving inside the container. And if I give justify content center, this entire track will be moving in horizontal, and for align items, it will be moving in vertical direction. And in similar way, and whenever we are using aligned content, we should be having multiple items. As here we are having multiple items and in different lines, so we will be using aligned content. Then for justify content also, entire track will be moved. Then here align items end. So now whenever we give align items, items in the sense, just remember grid items. When I give end, align will be moving in vertical direction. So this items will be moving at the end inside this cell. So whenever we are using content, entire track will be moved. But when we are using align items, only items will be moved. And align will be using in vertical direction. If I give justify items to be end, these items will be moving in horizontal direction and they will be going at the end. And also we are having one more property, align self to be start. And this property we will be giving for the items. And why we give this property? To just override this parent properties, that is align content or justify content or align items or justify items. So to override that one, we will be using align self on the grid items just to override the parent properties. Now only suppose only for box 1, if I give this property align self, that will be moving to the start. Inside this cell itself, it is going to move to the start and it will be moving in vertical direction. So just remember, whenever we are using align content, entire track will be moved inside the container, and for that the basic requirement is container height as well as container width should be more. And for justify content also, it is going to move entire track, but items, it is just going to move items inside that cell. For justify items also same result. And finally align self we will be using on different grid items to override the properties which we have given for the parent container. Now practically we are going to understand this. I have opened my Visual Studio Code. Now if you see, this was the layer which we built using this properties, grid column, grid rows and everything. We have built this layer. If I show you in larger screen, the first requirement what I told, whenever we want to align the items, we want parent container should be larger in size. But here if you see, we do not have vertical space as well as we do not have horizontal space. So for that, let me just increase the size. Here inside this column, I will just reduce their column width. First, I will give 100 pixel. Let me remove all this. 100 pixel. Here also 100 pixel. And here let me just write 250 pixel. Save this. Now if you see here, I am having column size. Now here I am having the space. This entire container is visible for me. For height it is not there, but still width I am able to see. I will come down. Now inside this parent container, we are going to use all align properties. So first, let me show you align content. Align content, and for this I will just write here start. Save this. Now you can see this entire track. Before that, let me just open this one and I will just switch on my grid. I will clear this. Now you can see entire track in which I am having all the elements that has moved to the start, and this align content will be moving in vertical direction. For this we are having different values. We have start, similarly we have end. As soon as I give end, see complete track will be coming at the end, this one. If I show you in larger screen, this will be my result. And also we have center. Save this. Now my track will be coming here. Similar way, we have justify content. Justified content will be moving in horizontal direction. If I just write here start, now currently it is in start, so here in this position only it is going to stay. If I give here end, save this, it will be moving at the end in horizontal direction. If I just want to bring my complete grid in the center, then I can just write here center. So both horizontally and vertically, the containers will be in the center. You can see my entire grid is in the middle. Now, similar way, we are having two more properties here. Let me comment this out. This one as well as this one. Now below this, I will write align items. Align items means inside this grid, you can see this numbers. This is my first grid, this is second, and this is third. So here, as soon as I write start, just see what happens. Save this. You can see inside this cells, they are going to move on top. And here in this second cell, I am not having anything because we have just spanned this row into two cells. So that is the reason here it is not present. For this also we are having same values. Let me just write here end. It will be coming to end. You can see the result will be displayed here. Now for this first cell, my element will be here. Okay, by practice you will understand this, how to align this item. But this is concept you have to understand. Line content will be taking all the track and displaying all the elements in the middle. But align items, only that items it is going to arrange inside the cell. We have another value also. We have center. Save this. Now all the elements will be coming in the middle. Now here if I give justify items to be start. Save this. Now they will be coming in start and they will be in horizontal direction, and this align items also will be in vertical direction. Similarly, we have end. Save this. Now they will be moving it here, and also we have center. Save this. Now they will come in the middle. So this is very simple to understand. Align items. Just remember the word items. Inside the track itself, inside that cell itself, items will be moved in horizontal or vertical direction. But for this content, entire thing, whatever grid lines you can see, entire track will be moving in horizontal or vertical direction. Now here, for this, let me just take this box 1. For this box 1, I will be using align self. And why we are using align self property? Align self property is used to override the properties which are written in parent container. Now here I will just write start. Now you can see only the first box has went to start. So this is how we will be aligning the items. Let me just increase the size. You can see this will be our result. Actually this layout is very complex, but using CSS Grid it is easy to implement as well as it is not time consuming. But same layer, if you were trying to build few years ago using floats, then it was very difficult to achieve and it was very time consuming. But still, maybe it is not looking like complex layer, but actually it is very complex layer, but we have built only using CSS Grid. We are having few more properties. We have align track. That all you don't have to use. Mostly 99% we will be using only center values, and mostly we will use align content or justify content. And here we have space between, space around, how we have in Flexbox, same values we will have. But whenever we used Flexbox, we were writing flex start or start. But here when we are using grid, we should always write start or end. So this you have to remember. Okay, this is all about aligning tracks and aligning items inside CSS Grid. Now we are going to understand last and final property in CSS Grid, that is grid template area. So first let me just comment this CSS file and I will be creating new file link, and let me just give the file name as main.css. I will just create the file here main.css. Now inside this, first I am going to select my container. For this I will give background color to be black. So this is my container. Inside that I am having these elements. So first let me change the color. Color I will just give here white. Now I am just going to copy this box and here I will paste this, and for this let me just write here border of 2 pixel solid red. And inside this container I will be using display to be grid. Save this. Now I will not be having any effect in my output, but I want some space. So as we have seen, we have gap property, Before we used to use grid gap, but now we are just using gap. Gap I will just write here 20 pixel. Save this. Now I am having some space. This what you can see, that is the space. Now inside this, let me just remove all these things. Instead of that, I will create one div, and for this div I will give the class name as header, and below this I will create one div, and for this let me just write here menu bar, and below this I will just write here aside, and finally I'm just going to write footer. Okay, these are the 4 sections I have created. Inside this first section I will write header, and here I am going to write menu bar, then I will write aside, and finally I'm just going to write footer. Okay, these are the simple headings I have given. Now what I will do, for all these things I will just give the common class, that is box. Save this. Now whatever stylings I have applied here, that is displayed, that is border is given. Now I am going to select my header. Simple trick I will be showing you. I will select this menu bar, press Alt, select this aside, press Alt, select this footer class, copy all these 3 things, and below this I am just going to paste. Now only thing, just write the dot, and here you can just write here flower braces. If you want to give multiple stylings, then copy multiple classes same time and just paste in CSS file. One by one, you do not have to copy and you do not have to paste it separately. So now inside this, I will be using grid area property. Grid area, I will give the area name as header. Whatever name you want, you can give. Inside this, I will write grid area. I will just write here menu. Let me just give one space, and here also I am going to write grid area. I will write aside, and finally grid area I will just write here footer. This is my property grid area, and this is the value header, menu, aside and footer. So now what I have to do, you can see all my containers, if you notice here, all are at one place, all are on top of each other. Now what I am going to do, let me just change the name first. I will just write here main or menu bar. I will just give the same class name. Now here I will be writing grid template area, that is areas. Inside this, now I have to specify how many columns my header should take, how many columns my menu bar should take, basically how many cells of space they should be taking. For this header, let me just assign here. I will just write here header, one space header. As soon as I save this, this will be my header. Below this, now here, this side, I just want to display my menu bar. I will just write here menu bar. Not here, let me copy this. And here inside this double quotes, I'm just going to paste. And also I'm just going to give one space menu bar. Save this. Now you can see my menu bar is displayed here. Whatever cells my header is taking, same cells my menu bar is taking, because I have written here 2 times. Now again, if I just write here menu bar, save this, now you can see I will not be getting any result. So how many columns I specify here? Same number of columns I have to specify it here. I will remove this, and here also instead of this menu bar, I just want to display aside. Save this. Now here if you notice menu bar, I just want to keep it till here. This cell also I just want to cover. So what I will do, again I am going to write menu bar. Save this. Again I will not be getting any result because here I have given 2 columns. but here I am only specifying one column. Then last part, I just have to display footer. Save this. Now this will be my layout. But for this, we can also specify column, that is column width, as well as we can specify the row width. So for that, we can use normal grid properties, grid template columns. Columns, let me just write here around 200 pixel and 1 FR. So remaining space should be taken because I am just using this one. Save this. Now this is my complete header. And for rows also, I will be using same thing. Grid template rows. For this header, let me just give around 60 pixel. Then for this menu bar, this one, this second row, I will just write here 1 FR. So accordingly, it should be adjusted. And finally, for this last one, I will give 50 pixel. Now this is my result. And inside this, I can give different background color to be pink, and here I will give background color, let me just write here cyan. Here I will write yellow, and finally for this footer, let me just write this one, background color, I will write orange. So this will be my simple layout. If I just remove this gap property, you can see we have header, we have menu bar, and also I will be removing the color. We have header, menu bar, aside and footer. Accordingly, you can give this grid column area, you can give the names, and based on this grid area, you can assign them the cells. Now here if I just write header, save this, everything will be going because here I am having 3 columns and here I am having 2 columns. So now here I have to give aside, save this, and finally for this one I have to give here footer. Whatever names you want you can give, but accordingly it will be adjusted. And because of this one, because of, you can see I have given only 2 columns, so accordingly that will be adjusted. And here again if I just write here 1 FR, again there will be no change because we have already occupied the entire space. So might be this is little confusing, but when you start practicing, you will understand this layer. Again, I will explain you. Whenever we are using this grid area property, we are just assigning the values, and using these values, we will tell how many cells of space our content will occupy. Here I have given 3. So basically, just imagine I am having 3 columns. Let me inspect and show you. Can see this is my grid. Totally, if you see here, I am having 3 columns. First column, I have just assigned the value as header. Second also header, and third also header. So this entire thing is having the same name. So it is just going to wrap this entire row. And here also for column I have given 3 values. If I give here 2 values, save this. Now you can see I am having only 2 columns, and this second, because of this one FR, this will be taken by this one. Then here I am having menu bar, this one, this menu bar which you can see 2 and 3. Then here also in third row I have given menu bar, so it is just going to occupy. And for this aside also I will be having the same thing, aside. And finally for footer I will be having the same thing how we had for this header. So whatever space we are having, that it is going to cover based on these values. Now here if I just write here header again, and here if I write aside, and here if I write footer, then also before saving let me show you the result. You can see here I am having only 2 columns, but here if I see, you can see I have given 4 times. All the values I have given 4 times. I will save this. Then also I am going to have this same 2 columns. Now if I just remove this one, again you can see there is no effect, but if I remove this one, Now I am having 4 columns. 1, 2, 3 and 4. First is header, second is header, third is header and fourth is header. But as I have given same names, so it is just going to occupy all the cells. Then this second row also same thing, menu bar, then all will be occupied by aside. Then first is menu bar, then all three will be occupied by footer. Now if I just write here menu bar, and here also I am going to write menu bar. Save this. Now two columns will be occupied by menu bar and rest two columns will be occupied by aside and footer. So whatever content you want, if you want to give navbar, if you want to give main content, aside content, whatever you want, you can easily give it. I will show you one more layer. Now this aside also, I just want here aside, and here also I want aside. Save this. Now aside will be covering all this thing, but this footer I want it to cover all, like how header we have covered, same way I have to cover my footer. So here I will write footer, again footer and again footer. Save this. Now you can see this will be my another layer. This will be my menu bar, this will be aside, and finally this will be footer. And from here if I just remove this and if I give aside and here also aside, now my aside will be covering 3 columns of space. So whatever names and how many times we give, that many times columns will be specified. If you give this one, whatever column number we have, it will be overridden, but still accordingly the layout will be displayed. If I just give here, now you can see I will only have 2 columns. If I have 2 columns, if I remove these 2 values from here and 2 values from here, 2 values from here and also 2 values from here, save this, again I am going to get the same result. So accordingly you have to practice. This is not very used, only for practicing purpose. Grid template areas is used, but whenever you are building the layer using grid template columns or grid template rows, using similar properties, using aligning properties, you will be building the layer. But using this grid template areas also, you can build a layer and you can create the website. Just practice this one. If you did not understand any of the properties, watch the video 2 to 3 times, write down the notes, refer to your notes so that you can learn everything about CSS Grid. If you master CSS Grid, whenever you are creating website, then it will be very easy for you to build complex layer only by writing 3 to 4 lines of code. Now I will be building one simple structure using CSS Grid. Now let us work with final CSS Grid layout. This is not a fancy layout. I have just created to understand the concept of grid. And this complete layout, I will be showing you how to build using grid template areas. And also the practice for you will be this complete layout which we are going to build now using grid template areas. You have to build using grid columns or grid rows. You have to span all these rows, you have to span the columns, and you have to build the same layout. Okay, it will be a practice for you so that the concept which we have learned till now, all the grid properties you can apply and you can get the result. And this layout is responsive as well. I will inspect. This is my larger screen view. As soon as I decrease this one, just focus here. You can see now my container, my layout is different and I am having this structure. Just imagine in your website, this is header, this is some content and this is our footer. Again, I am going to reduce this. At one point, I will be having this structure in tabs or something. Again, I will just decrease this one. You can see this is my another layout. And finally, I am having this responsive layout in mobile view. So totally we have 1, and this is our second breakpoint. This is our third breakpoint, fourth, and finally this is our larger view. So we are going to build this complete layer. Same layer you can use to create responsive websites as well. Now let us start with writing the code. I will be writing the code completely from the scratch. Step by step process, I will show you how to use grid template areas and how to give the area values so that we can build this responsive layer. Now if you count here, I am having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 containers. So for CSS Grid, first requirement is for all these grid items, we should be having one parent container. I will come here. This is my index.html file in which I have linked CSS file. Now inside body, I will give the class name as main grid container. Inside this, I should be having 7 grid items. Diff, and for all this, instead of writing diff, we can just write as section, or you can give article, whatever you want. You can give semantic HTML element tags. Section, and for all this, I'm just going to give grid items into 7. And first will be my header. I will write header. Second will be my section 1. Whatever names you want, you can give. Later we will give the content and accordingly we will increase the size. This will be my section 2, section 3, section 4, and here finally I am going to give footer. Save this. I will show this result. Now if you see, I am having all the content. We'll come to style.css. In this, first let me just copy this main grid container, copy, and I will be pasting it here. The first thing what we have to do, we have to give display to be grid. Save this. Now even if I refresh, nothing will happen. What display grid will be doing? It will allow us to use all the properties related to grid. And also for this, as of now, let me just give background color to be cyan or aqua. Save this. Now this is my main container inside which I am having all the sections. For this, I wanted to cover complete 100%. So I will be giving height. I will just write here minimum height to be 100 view height. So whatever is visible for me, that complete height I am giving to my parent container. For this, I will give the width as well. Width, I do not want it to cover complete 100%. I just want it to take 85%. So this will be my result. It will take 85%. All these grid items are extended because the container height is increased. Now I want this complete container in the middle. So I can just write here margin top and bottom 0, left and right auto. Save this. Now my container will come in the middle. Now what we have to do? We have to start building this layer. I will come here. I will just copy this grid items class and below this I am just going to paste. And for this I will give background color. Whatever colors you want for practice purpose you can give, or else you can use the same colors. Save this. Now if you notice, all my children are on top of parent container. So that is the reason they are covering entire height and width of parent container. And below this, I will give box shadow. Here I will give 0 and 20 pixel RGBA, and inside this I am just going to give some values, and opacity I will give 0.5. Now this will be my box shadow. For all elements if you notice here, all elements, that is grid items, have taken equal height, and also they are taking complete 100%, which simply means they are block level elements. Now for this, I will be giving padding, but while we give larger data, then we are going to give padding. So as of now, let me just remove this padding. I do not need this one. And finally, I will give border radius. Border radius of 10 pixel. Save this. Now if you notice here, on corners, I am having parent container, but for all grid items, I am having border radius. Okay, this is the basic styling we have done. Now one by one, we will be giving values to this one, and we will use grid template areas properties inside grid. So for selecting individual items, first I have to give them separate classes. For header, I will give header. For this section 1, let me write section 1. I will copy this here, here, here and here. I'm just going to paste. And I will just change the values 2, 3, 4 and finally 5. And for this footer, I'm going to give the class as footer. Save this. No changes in our code. I have just added classes. Now I am going to select this section 1. Before that, let me select this header. And here I am going to paste. Now I will be showing you a simple trick. Copy multiple classes. Now many times what happened, we are having multiple classes and we have to give stylings to all of them. Then copying individual classes and pasting them will be time consuming. So what we can do, we can select all the classes at once. I will select this class using Alt. I'm just going to select this one, and I'm going to select all this, Control C, and I'm just going to paste it here. Now for all, again I will select Alt. I will just write here dot. Now just press end button in our keyboard and just write this one. And for this section 1 also, I will just write here curly braces. This is the simple trick to copy multiple classes and paste all at once. For header, I am going to give different background color. I will give the background color which I have used in my project. I will write this. Save. This is my header. And for this header, now I am going to give grid area. Grid area name I will give as header. Now as soon as I give, you can see these grid items are divided into two sections. Here inside this, I am having this sections, and inside this, I am having this sections, because I have just given here grid area. Now below this, I will write grid area. And for this, let me just write here section 1. Whatever names you want, you can give. Copy same thing here, here, here and here. I will just paste and I'm just going to change the values. 2, I will write here 3, here I will write 4 and finally here I will write 5. And inside this footer, I will write grid area and this value I will give as footer. Now if you notice here, as soon as I give that values for grid area, all my containers are on top of each other and first visible is footer. So whatever last element I am having here, that will be visible. And all this section 5, section 4, all these elements are back of my footer. Now if I just comment this one, let me just comment this footer. Now you will see as section 5. So all are behind this div containers. Let me uncomment. Okay, this is how we are going to use grid area. Now what I do not want to display my containers in this way. I just want to display it like this. I want to tell my header should occupy this one, my item should come here, my this item should come here, and finally my footer should come here. So for that, inside parent container, we will use another property, that is grid template areas. Now here, what I will do, I want it to divide my layout into 4 groups, that is 4 columns. So first, if you see my demo, my header is covering full layout, that is one complete row. And what I told, I want 4 columns. So here I am going to write header, header and header. Whatever value I gave for grid area, same I am going to write. I will save this. I will come. Now if you see here, my header is completing till here. As soon as I give all the values to all the containers, then accordingly it will be covering complete layout. Then below this, first what I just want section 1. Section 1, I want it to take 2 columns. Then I will give section 2. And finally, I will give section 5. Okay, why I will tell you. This is my container which is taking 2 span of space. This is third one. And this is my 5th container which is spanning across rows. So in second row, what I am having? 2 times section 1, section 2 and section 5. Now in third row, I should give section 3, section 4, section 4 2 times and finally section 5. I will come down. So this will be section 3, section 4 2 times, section 4, section 4 and finally section 5. Here also I gave 5. Here also I gave 5. In 2 rows I gave the same value, which means I am telling row span. In same row I have given the values. That means I am doing column span. And footer, I wanted to take complete this one. So I will write footer, footer, footer and footer. Save this. I will come to my layout. Now if you notice here, I am having this structure. Section 1, section 2. Now this is my layout, but instead of 2, I have to give here section 1 2 times. Section 1, section 2, section 5, it is not spanning. We will see that. This is section 3, section 4 and finally we have this footer. And here I just have to write here underscore. Save this. Now if you notice, our layout is completely like this. Whatever we have designed, that is visible. Now for footer also, I will be giving the same background color, copy, and here I will be pasting. So this is very simple to understand. First, I have just planned, I want 4 columns in my layout. Okay, whatever website you are designing, you have to think how many column space you need. So once you give using grid template areas, that many times you have to pass the value which is given inside this grid area. Now here suppose if I don't give header. For all this I have given 4 times, but for header I have given only 3 times. Now if you notice my result, you can see again I am back to the previous result. What I was having previously, I will be back to that. So in every row, whatever values and number of values what we give, it should be same throughout this code. Now I will save this. Now this is my layout. Now all are stuck to each other. So what we will do? We will be using gap property. Gap, let me just write here 20 pixel. Save this. Now I am having some gap. And also from here I will be removing this background color. Okay, very simple to build this layout. Now inside this, whatever content you want, you can easily add that. But if I inspect this, let me just decrease the size. You can see for all the screen sizes, I will be having the same layout. But I do not want this one. But in mobile view, if you want to see this content, it will not look good, and also so long content and multiple lines of code cannot be read in smaller screens. And also if I just change here, you can see in all the screen sizes, I will be having this layout. But I do not want this one. So what we will do, so now we will be using media queries. For this also, if you want to give this color, you can give. Okay, as of now, this is only for practicing purpose. So whatever colors you want, you can easily give and you can build this layout. For this one, let me just change the color. I will just write here white. And for footer also, I will change the color because so that it will be visible. And for footer, save. Now that is visible. Now we will be writing media queries. First breakpoint, I just want to give it to 1000 pixel. So I will write here media screen, and inside this I will be using maximum width. Whatever you want, you can give. Suppose if you want to use minimum width, then also you can use, but accordingly you have to give this breakpoints. 1000 pixel, which means maximum will be 1000 pixel. So after 1000, whatever stylings I have given, that will be applied. But as soon as I come to 1000 pixel, then whatever stylings I am going to give here, that will be applied. So as of now, I just have to copy this one, and inside this I will paste. Rest all codes I will remove, and I'm just going to keep this grid template areas. Save this. I will come to my demo. Inspect this one. Now here, let me just move to that breakpoint 1000 pixel. Okay, now inside 1000 pixel, if you notice here, now I have decided I should be having 3 columns in this breakpoint. So this is taking 2, 1, and so header will be taking complete 3 columns. Okay, let us just write this code, then you will understand. I will increase this one. So first header will be 3 times. Then this is my section 1. Section 1 will be 2 times. Section 2 is only 1 time. But here we do not have section 5. I will remove this section 5. But in this third row, I am having complete section 5. Section 5, 5, 5. Let me just remove 1 time. Okay, totally 3 times I am going to cover. And here, this is our 4th row. And for this is section 3, section 4, section 4. I will come down. Section 3 once. Then we have section 4. And also we have section 4. And finally for footer, we just need 3 times. Save this. I will come to my project. Inspect. Okay, now I have crossed the breakpoint, but still I am not getting the result. Let me come. I will give one space. Save this. Now if you notice here, I got my layout. This is my header, and then in second row I am having only section 1 2 times, section 3, then section 5 is covering the whole area, section 3, section 4 is taking 2 column space, and finally we have footer. So this is my one breakpoint. Another breakpoint I will add, copy, paste, and here I will just write 800. I will come to this demo. I will just cross that 800. Now if you see here, you can just write the code by yourself. This is my header. Now in this breakpoint, I just want 2 columns. So what I can do, I will remove header, and here section 1 is taking complete area, so I have to remove section 2. Here I have section 2 and then I have section 5. I will remove this last one. Then here we have section 3 and section 5. It is just spanning across the row. So I will write here section 5 and I will remove this one. And finally footer also I have to remove one value. I will come to my project, refresh. I will cross that breakpoint, 800. Okay, now section 4 has come here. Let me check. We have this section 1, 1, 2, 5, 3. Okay, section 4 I have to give it here. Section 4th row, section 4. It is taking complete area, so I will be giving section 4. I will save this. Now this is my layout. So here I am having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows and I am having 2 columns. But here I was having 5 rows and I am having 3 columns. So accordingly we can increase or decrease the column numbers, but you have to get the layout which you need. I will be adding one more breakpoint, that is 700. I will cross here. Let me come to my demo project. I will cross this 700. Now here also I have decided I want 2 columns, but you can see we are having different layer. So now seeing this, you can easily tell this is header, this is section 1 taking completely. Then instead of writing here 5, we are just writing section 2 and section 3. Copy same thing, below paste, section 1, then we have section 2, section 3, 5 is covering whole thing. So we will write 5 and this will also be 5, and 4 is covering whole thing, and finally we have footer. Save this, come, refresh this one. Now you can see we have section 1, 2, 3, we have 5, we have 4 and we have this footer. Finally we are going to add last breakpoint, that is for smaller screens. I will just write here 500. In smaller screen, I want it to take only one column and all should be like this. So what we can do, we can write 1, remove this. From here you remove this, section 2, section 5, section 4 and footer. So if you want to print like this, section 1, section 2, section 3, 4, 5, 6, that also you can do. And after this, I just want here section 3. Save this, come to project, refresh this one. I will cross that breakpoint, 500. Now you can see I am having all these sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, accordingly, wherever you want that content, you can arrange. So whatever order you give, in that order, my grid items will be displayed here. So this is very simple. Using grid template areas, we just have to tell how many times and how many columns we are going to use, and accordingly we will give these values. Now here you can give any content. Inside header you can give my grid container. Save this. My result is displayed. And here you can give some content, lorem 30. Content is displayed. Lorem 20. Save, content will be displayed. Accordingly, for all the sections, whatever content you want, you can give 30, lorem 30, 5, lorem 70. Save this, you can see I will be getting the layout. So whatever layout we have planned, we will get whenever we give this data. Now for this grid items, I just have to give the padding, which I told previously. Padding, because our content is stuck, 20 pixel. so that I will be getting some space inside the containers. So this is very simple to build. Now even if we inspect this one, you can see in larger screen or in smaller screen, we will be getting separate layers. I will reduce the size. Now based on our breakpoints, we will be getting different layers and we will get our result. And see, according to whatever stylings we have given, according to that it will be adjusted and we are going to get our result. Now using CSS Grid, it has become very easy to understand and easy to build two-dimensional layers. Using only this one, you can build a layer, or you can use grid rows or grid column properties, and you can span the rows, span the columns, and accordingly you can build the layer. So till now, if you have understood grid, just for your practice, take this challenge and build this complete layout using grid rows and grid columns, and accordingly span the values. Inside media query also span the values. If you got the result, you can paste in comment section, or if you are having doubt, you can ask me in comment section. I will be providing solution for this challenge. Okay, that's all. We have completed our complete grid session. There are many advanced topics, but using these properties, whatever we have learned, using that also you can start building complex layer and you can start with creating your website. Thank you so much for watching this. Next, we will continue with some more topics.